17-year-old Lily Rodriguez had always been different from other kids her age. While her classmates spent hours scrolling through social media or hanging out at the mall, she found peace with a paintbrush in her hand and a blank canvas in front of her. Her bedroom walls were covered with her artwork, colorful landscapes, detailed portraits of her family, and abstract pieces that seemed to dance with emotion. Her mom, Rosa, would often find her daughter painting late into the night, completely lost in her own creative world. The small apartment they shared was filled with Lily's art supplies scattered everywhere. Paint tubes on the kitchen counter, sketch pads on the couch, and brushes soaking in old jam jars by the window. Rosa didn't mind the mess. Seeing her daughter happy was worth more than a tidy house. Lily's talent hadn't gone unnoticed at school either. Her art teacher, Mrs. Chen, constantly praised her work and encouraged her to enter local competitions. Last spring, Lily had won first place in the city's Young Artist Showcase with a painting of children playing in the rain. The prize money of $300 had helped Rosa buy groceries for a whole month, but lately something was wrong. Lily found herself getting tired much faster than usual. What used to be hours of painting turned into short sessions before exhaustion took over. She would sit down to work on a piece and find herself nodding off within minutes. At first she thought it was just stress from school or maybe staying up too late working on her art. The bruises started appearing around the same time. Small purple marks on her arms and legs that she couldn't remember getting. When Rosa asked about them, Lily just shrugged it off. Maybe she was being clumsy, bumping into things without realizing it. Teenagers get bruises all the time, right? Rosa worked 2 jobs to keep their small family afloat. During the day, she cleaned offices in the downtown business district, and 3 evenings a week she stocked shelves at the local grocery store. Money was always tight, but they managed. Rosa had been doing this dance of making ends meet ever since Lily's father left when she was just 5 years old. The turning point came on a Tuesday morning in October. Lily woke up feeling dizzy and weak. When she tried to get out of bed, her legs felt like jelly. She called out to her mom, but her voice came out as barely a whisper. Rosa found her daughter sitting on the edge of the bed, pale as a ghost and struggling to stay upright. "Mia, what's wrong?" Rosa rushed to her side, feeling Lily's forehead for fever. Her daughter's skin was cold and clammy. "I don't know, Mom, I just feel so tired. Everything hurts." Lily's eyes were dull, missing their usual spark of creativity and life. Rosa didn't hesitate. She called in sick to both her jobs and drove Lily straight to the emergency room at City General Hospital. The waiting room was crowded, filled with coughing patients and crying children. They sat there for 4 hours before a doctor could see them. Dr. Patricia Williams was a kind woman in her 40s, who immediately noticed Lily's pale complexion and the scattered bruises on her arms. She asked gentle questions about Lily's symptoms while examining her carefully. The concern in the doctor's eyes grew more obvious with each passing minute. "I'm going to order some blood tests," Dr. Williams said softly. "We need to check a few things." The blood draw was routine, but the waiting felt endless. Rosa held Lily's hand as they sat in the small examination room, both trying not to think about what might be wrong. Lily dozed off in the uncomfortable plastic chair, while Rosa watched every person in scrubs walk past their door, hoping someone would come with good news. When Dr. Williams returned 3 hours later, she wasn't alone. A specialist had joined her, Dr. Kevin Thompson from the hospital's oncology department. Rosa's heart sank the moment she saw him. She didn't need to be told what kind of doctor he was. "We've found some abnormalities in Lily's blood work," Dr. Williams began carefully. "Her white blood cell count is very high and her red blood cell count is low. Combined with her symptoms and physical examination, we believe Lily has acute lymphoblastic leukemia." The words hit Rosa like a physical blow. Leukemia, cancer. Her 17-year-old daughter had cancer. Lily, still groggy from exhaustion, didn't fully understand at first. "What does that mean exactly?" she asked, looking between the 2 doctors. Dr. Thompson leaned forward, speaking in a calm, reassuring voice. "It means your bone marrow is producing too many abnormal white blood cells. The good news is that this type of leukemia responds very well to treatment, especially in young people like yourself. We've made incredible advances in treating this disease." The next few hours were a blur of medical terms, treatment plans, and consent forms. Lily would need to start chemotherapy as soon as possible. She would be in the hospital for at least a week for her first round of treatment, and then continue with regular sessions for several months. Rosa's mind immediately went to the practical concerns. How would she pay for this? Her insurance from the cleaning company was basic at best. And she knew cancer treatment was expensive, very expensive. Don't worry about the financial part right now, Dr. Thompson said as if reading her thoughts. We have social workers who can help you navigate insurance and payment options. The most important thing is getting Lily's treatment started. That night, back in their apartment, Rosa sat at their small kitchen table surrounded by medical pamphlets and insurance paperwork. Lily was already asleep, exhausted from the day's revelations. The numbers on the treatment estimate sheet made Rosa's head spin. Even with insurance, their portion would be tens of thousands of dollars. She looked around their modest home, trying to figure out what could be sold or pawned. There wasn't much of value except for Lily's art supplies and finished paintings. The irony wasn't lost on her. The only things worth any money in their apartment were created by the same hands that now needed expensive medical treatment. Rosa pulled out her phone and started researching. She read about other families facing similar situations, about fundraising websites and community support. Some parents had organized bake sales or car washes to raise money for their children's medical bills. Others had started online campaigns asking for donations from strangers. But as she looked at Lily's paintings hanging on the walls around her, an idea began to form. These weren't just pretty pictures. They were pieces of her daughter's soul, created with talent that had impressed teachers and judges. Maybe, just maybe, people would be willing to buy them if they knew the story behind them. The thought of selling Lily's precious artwork made Rosa's heart ache. These paintings represented years of her daughter's passion and dreams. But if selling them could help save Lily's life, then it was a price worth paying. Tomorrow she would talk to Lily about the idea. Tonight she would hold on to hope that somehow they would find a way through this nightmare together. When Rosa brought up the idea of selling Lily's artwork the next morning, she expected her daughter to be upset. Instead, Lily's eyes lit up with something that had been missing since her diagnosis: purpose. "Mom, that's actually brilliant," Lily said, sitting up straighter in her hospital bed. They were waiting for her first chemotherapy session to begin, and the nervous energy had been eating at both of them. "I've been lying here feeling so useless, like I'm just a burden. But if my paintings can actually help pay for my treatment, then at least I'm doing something." Rosa felt tears prick her eyes. Even facing cancer, her daughter was thinking about contributing to the family. "Mija, you could never be a burden. But if this is something you want to do, then we'll figure out how to make it work." The first challenge was deciding which paintings to sell. Back home that evening, they spread Lily's artwork across the living room floor. There were dozens of pieces, some small sketches she'd done as practice, others large canvases that had taken weeks to complete. "We should keep the really personal ones," Lily said, picking up a painting she'd done of Rosa cooking in their tiny kitchen. "But these landscapes and portraits of strangers, people might want to buy these for their homes." They selected 25 pieces ranging from small watercolor paintings to larger acrylic works. Rosa suggested starting with lower prices to see if anyone would buy them, but Lily shook her head. "Mom, Mrs. Chen always told us not to undervalue our work. If we price them too cheap, people will think they're not good quality. Besides, we need to raise real money here, not just pocket change." The next decision was where to sell them. Online seemed like the obvious choice, but neither Rosa nor Lily had experience with that kind of thing. Setting up a website or online store felt overwhelming when they were already dealing with so much. "What about selling them in person?" Lily suggested. "Like at the farmer's market or outside the library." Rosa worried about her daughter being out in public with her immune system compromised, but Lily was determined. "I'll wear a mask and use hand sanitizer constantly. The fresh air might actually be good for me between chemo sessions." They decided on a spot outside City General Hospital, the same place where Lily was receiving treatment. Rosa thought it was perfect. People going in and out of a hospital might be more understanding of their situation and maybe more willing to help a young cancer patient. The first day was rough. Rosa had to work, so Lily's Aunt Carmen came to help set up the display. They used an old folding table and created a sign that read "Original artwork by local artist supporting cancer treatment." Lily felt self-conscious at first, worried that people would stare at her thin frame and pale complexion. For the first 2 hours, people walked by without stopping. Lily started to worry that this whole plan was a mistake. Maybe her paintings weren't good enough. Maybe people could tell she was desperate and it made them uncomfortable. Then an elderly man stopped to look at her watercolor painting of a sunset over the lake. He studied it for several minutes, occasionally glancing at Lily sitting behind the table in her winter coat and knit hat covering her thinning hair. "How much for this one?" he asked quietly. $45, Lily replied, her voice shaky with nerves. The man nodded and pulled out his wallet. As he handed her the money, he said, "My wife passed away last year. She loved sunsets. This reminds me of her." He paused, looking at Lily more carefully. "You keep fighting, young lady. You've got too much talent to give up." That first sale gave Lily the confidence she needed. Over the next few hours, she sold 3 more pieces. A portrait of a dog to a woman who said it looked just like her childhood pet. A painting of children playing in snow to a young father, and a small landscape to a nurse who recognized Lily from the cancer ward. By the end of the day, Lily had made $160. It wasn't enough to make a real dent in their medical bills, but it was a start. More importantly, it proved that people were willing to buy her work. The second day brought new challenges. It was colder, and Lily tired more easily after her latest chemo session. But word had somehow spread and more people stopped by. A teacher from the local elementary school bought 2 pieces to hang in her classroom. A businessman purchased a large painting for his office, paying double Lily's asking price and telling her to keep the change. As the days turned into weeks, Lily developed a routine. On days when she felt strong enough, she would set up her display outside the hospital. Rosa rearranged her work schedule to be there as much as possible, but when she couldn't make it, kind strangers often helped Lily pack up her things or watched her table when she needed to use the bathroom. The hospital staff started to recognize her too. Dr. Thompson would sometimes stop by between patient visits, always encouraging but never buying anything. He said it wouldn't be appropriate given their doctor-patient relationship. However, he did mention Lily's artwork to other families dealing with medical expenses, and several of them became customers. One afternoon, a local news reporter approached Lily's table. Someone had called in a tip about the teenager selling art to pay for her cancer treatment. At first, Rosa was hesitant about the publicity, worried about their privacy. But Lily convinced her that more exposure might mean more sales. The news segment aired 2 days later during the evening broadcast. It was only 3 minutes long, but it showed Lily painting at her table, talked about her diagnosis, and displayed several of her pieces. The reporter did a good job of focusing on Lily's talent and determination, rather than just the sad aspects of her story. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The next day, people started showing up at Lily's usual spot, having seen the news story. By lunchtime, she had sold more paintings than in her previous 2 weeks combined. People were not only buying her existing work, but asking if she could create custom pieces. A local coffee shop owner offered to display and sell some of Lily's paintings in his cafe, taking only a small commission. The owner of an art supply store heard about Lily's story and donated a box of new paints and brushes, saying that talent like hers should never be limited by lack of materials. But the most surprising response came from Lily's old high school. Her art teacher, Mrs. Chen, organized a special exhibition featuring Lily's work. Students, teachers, and parents came to view the paintings, and many purchased pieces. The school also started a fundraising campaign specifically for Lily's medical expenses. Within a month of starting her sidewalk art sales, Lily had raised over $3,000. It still wasn't enough to cover all the medical bills, but it was making a real difference. More importantly, the act of selling her art had given Lily something to focus on besides her illness. "You know what's funny?" Lily told her mom one evening as they counted the day's earnings. "I always painted because it made me happy. I never thought it could actually help us survive." Rosa smiled, watching her daughter's face glow with pride and purpose. The chemotherapy was working. Lily's blood counts were improving, and she was starting to regain some of her energy. But Rosa knew that the emotional healing happening alongside the physical treatment was just as important. What they didn't know was that their story was about to take an unexpected turn. Someone had been watching Lily's progress from afar, and he was planning to do something that would change their lives forever. It was a Friday afternoon in November, and the autumn air carried a chill that made Lily wrap her scarf tighter around her neck. She had been setting up her art display outside City General Hospital for 6 weeks now, and today felt different somehow. Maybe it was because her latest blood test results had been encouraging, or maybe it was the way the afternoon sunlight hit her paintings just right, making the colors seem more vibrant than usual. Lily arranged her artwork carefully on the folding table, placing her newest piece, a painting of a lone tree against a stormy sky, in the center where people would notice it first. This painting was special to her. She had worked on it during her last hospital stay, finding comfort in creating something beautiful while dealing with the harsh reality of chemotherapy. The usual afternoon crowd began to trickle by. Hospital staff heading home after their shifts, visitors coming to see patients, and the occasional passerby who had heard about the young artist selling her work for medical expenses. Lily had gotten comfortable talking to potential customers, explaining her techniques and the stories behind each piece. Around 3 o'clock, she noticed a man approaching from across the street. He was well-dressed in a charcoal gray suit and walked with the confident stride of someone successful in business. What caught Lily's attention wasn't his expensive clothes, though it was the way he slowed down as he got closer to her table, studying her paintings from a distance before actually reaching her display. Most people either walked straight past or stopped immediately when something caught their eye. This man was different. He seemed to be taking in the entire scene. Lily in her winter coat and knit cap, the handwritten sign explaining her situation, and the careful way she had arranged her artwork. When he finally reached her table, he didn't say hello right away. Instead, he spent several minutes examining each painting closely, occasionally leaning in to look at the brushwork or stepping back to see how the composition worked from different angles. Lily had learned not to interrupt when someone was seriously considering her work, so she waited patiently. "You painted all of these yourself?" he asked finally, his voice warm but serious. "Yes, sir, everyone," Lily replied. "Most of them over the past 2 years, though I've been painting since I was little." He nodded, continuing to study the pieces. "This one here," he said, pointing to a portrait she had done of an elderly woman sitting on a park bench. "The way you captured the expression in her eyes, that takes real skill. How long have you been formally trained?" Lily felt her cheeks warm slightly. "I've never had formal training, actually. Just what I learned in high school art class and from practicing on my own. My teacher, Mrs. Chen, taught me a lot about color theory and composition, but mostly I just paint what I see and feel." The man's eyebrows raised in surprise.
"Self-taught?"
"That's remarkable." He moved to another painting, this one of children playing in a fountain during summer. "The way you handle light and shadow here, you have a natural understanding of how light works. That's not something that can easily be taught." For the next 20 minutes, they talked about art. Not about Lily's illness or her need to raise money, but about painting techniques, color choices, and artistic inspiration. The man asked thoughtful questions about her process and seemed genuinely interested in her answers. He knew enough about art to ask technical questions that most of her customers never thought of. "I'm curious about your influences," he said, examining a landscape painting of mountains reflected in a lake. "This style reminds me a bit of the Hudson River School painters, but with a more contemporary feel." Lily was impressed that he recognized the influence. "I discovered those painters when I was researching American landscape art for a school project. There's something about the way they painted light that just spoke to me. I try to capture that same sense of drama and emotion, but in places that are familiar to me." As their conversation continued, other potential customers came and went. A few people browsed the paintings while listening to Lily and the well-dressed man discuss art. One woman bought a small watercolor after overhearing their conversation about brushwork techniques. Eventually, the man stepped back and looked at the display as a whole again. "I'd like to purchase 3 of these pieces," he said. The storm tree, the elderly woman portrait, and the mountain reflection. Lily quickly calculated the prices. Those were 3 of her more expensive pieces, totaling $130. "That would be $130 total," she said. Without hesitation, he pulled out his wallet and counted out the exact amount in cash. As he handed her the money, he said, "I run a software company downtown. We're always looking for original artwork for our offices. Would you be interested in creating a custom piece for us? Something large, maybe 3 feet by 4 feet?" Lily's heart jumped. A commissioned piece that size would be worth several $100s. "I would love to do that," she said. What kind of subject matter were you thinking? Something that represents innovation and growth, but with an organic feel. Maybe something that combines technology with nature? He paused, seeming to consider something. Actually, let me think about the specifics and get back to you. Do you have a way for me to contact you? Lily wrote down her phone number on a piece of paper. As she handed it to him, she realized she didn't even know his name. I'm Lily, by the way. Nice to meet you, Lily. I'm David, he said, shaking her hand. I'll call you early next week about the commission. He carefully picked up his 3 paintings and started to walk away, then turned back. Lily, can I ask you something? How long have you been selling your work out here? About 6 weeks now, she replied. Since right after I was diagnosed, David nodded slowly. And this is all to help with medical expenses? Yes, sir. My mom works 2 jobs, but cancer treatment is expensive even with insurance. I understand, he said quietly. My younger sister went through leukemia treatment when she was about your age. That was 15 years ago. But I remember how hard it was on my family financially. Lily felt a connection form between them. How is she doing now? She's wonderful. Married with 2 kids, completely healthy. The treatment has come so far since then. Your doctors are much better equipped now than they were back then. After David left, Lily couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. It wasn't just that he had bought 3 expensive pieces or offered her a commission. It was the way he had talked to her about art. He didn't treat her like a sick kid trying to raise money. He treated her like a real artist whose work had value beyond its charitable purpose. When Rosa arrived to help Lily pack up for the day, she could tell something had happened. You look excited about something, Mija. Mom, I met this businessman today. He bought 3 paintings and wants to commission a large piece for his office. But more than that, he really understood my work. We talked about art for almost half an hour. Rosa smiled, watching her daughter's animated expression. It had been months since she had seen Lily this energized about something other than medical appointments and treatment schedules. That's wonderful, baby. What was his name? David. He said he runs a software company downtown. He mentioned that his sister had leukemia when she was my age, so he understands what we're going through. As they loaded the paintings into Rosa's car, neither of them realized that David had spent the rest of his afternoon making phone calls and doing research. They didn't know that he had looked up Lily's medical records at the hospital, where his company's insurance plan had negotiating power, or that he had called his accountant to discuss tax implications of large charitable donations. What they also didn't know was that David's software company wasn't just successful, it was extraordinarily successful. He had started it 12 years ago in his garage and had just completed the sale of the company for $47 million. The deal had closed 2 weeks ago, leaving him with more money than he could spend in several lifetimes. All week, he had been thinking about what to do with his newfound wealth. He had always planned to give most of it away, but hadn't decided how or to whom. Meeting Lily had clarified something for him. Here was a young person with genuine talent and determination, facing the same disease that had nearly destroyed his own family's finances years ago. That evening, David sat in his downtown penthouse apartment, looking at the 3 paintings he had bought from Lily. They were even more impressive now that he could study them in proper lighting. The technical skill was remarkable for someone so young and self-taught, but beyond that, there was an emotional depth to her work that spoke of someone who had experienced real hardship and found beauty anyway. He picked up his phone and called his lawyer. There were arrangements to be made, and he wanted everything to be perfect when he returned to see Lily again. Monday morning brought a phone call that changed everything. Lily was having breakfast when her phone rang, showing a number she didn't recognize. Hello, is this Lily? The voice was familiar, though she couldn't place it immediately. Yes, this is Lily. This is David. We met on Friday at your art display outside the hospital. I bought 3 of your paintings. Lily's face lit up. Oh yes, hi David, are you calling about the commission piece? Actually, I'm calling about something much bigger than that. Would it be possible for you and your mother to meet me at the hospital this afternoon, say around 2 o'clock? Something in his tone made Lily pause. It wasn't bad news. He sounded almost excited. But there was a seriousness there that hadn't been present during their art discussion on Friday. Is everything okay? Did something happen to one of the paintings? David chuckled softly. The paintings are perfect. I just have some things I'd like to discuss with you both in person. Would that work? After checking with Rosa, who had to rearrange her afternoon shift at the grocery store, Lily called David back to confirm. She spent the rest of the morning wondering what could be so important that it required an in-person meeting with both her and her mother. Rosa was equally puzzled when Lily explained the call. Maybe he wants to buy more paintings? Or maybe his company wants to hire you for multiple commissions? At exactly 2 o'clock, Lily and Rosa arrived at their usual spot outside City General Hospital. David was already there, but he wasn't alone. With him stood 3 other people. A woman in a business suit carrying a briefcase, a man with a folder full of documents, and another woman wearing the name badge of the hospital's patient services department. Lily, Rosa, thank you for coming, David said, shaking both their hands. I'd like you to meet some people. This is Jennifer Walsh. She's an attorney who specializes in charitable giving. This is Robert Kim, my accountant. And this is Patricia Martinez from the hospital's financial assistance office. Rosa immediately felt nervous. All these official-looking people with their documents and briefcases. It felt like they were in trouble somehow, though she couldn't imagine what they could have done wrong. Is there somewhere private we could talk? David asked, looking around at the busy sidewalk. Patricia Martinez spoke up. We could use one of the family conference rooms inside. I've reserved room 3B for this meeting. As they walked into the hospital, Rosa whispered to Lily, "What do you think this is about?" "I have no idea, Mom, but David seemed really nice on Friday." "I don't think it's anything bad." The conference room was small but comfortable, with a round table and several chairs. David waited for everyone to sit before he began speaking. "Lily, Rosa, I want to start by telling you a bit more about myself. On Friday, I mentioned that I run a software company. What I didn't mention is that 2 weeks ago I completed the sale of that company. The transaction made me considerably wealthy, more money than I could possibly spend in my lifetime." He paused, looking directly at both of them. "I also told you that my sister had leukemia when she was young. What I didn't explain was how devastating that was for my family financially. My parents had to mortgage our house twice. My mother had to quit her job to care for my sister, and we came very close to losing everything. The stress of the medical bills almost destroyed my parents' marriage." Rosa felt her throat tighten. "This story sounded all too familiar," David continued. "My sister survived and thrived, thank God. But the experience taught my whole family how broken our healthcare system is when it comes to catastrophic illness. I've always wanted to do something about that, and meeting you, Lily, showed me exactly what I want to do." He nodded to Jennifer, who opened her briefcase and pulled out several official-looking documents. "Over the weekend, I had my legal and accounting team research your situation. With your permission, Patricia here provided some general information about your treatment plan and expected costs," David said. Rosa's protective instincts kicked in. "Excuse me, but what right did you have to look into our private medical information?" Patricia Martinez quickly explained. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I only provided general information about treatment costs for this type of leukemia. No specific details about Lily's case were shared without your written consent, which we don't have. This was simply to help David understand the typical financial burden families face." David held up his hand. "Rosa, I completely understand your concern. Privacy is incredibly important. But here's what I want to propose, and I need you both to hear me out completely before you respond." He leaned forward, his expression serious but kind. "I want to pay for all of Lily's medical expenses. All of them. Not just current bills, but the entire treatment plan from beginning to end. Insurance, copays, medications, follow-up care, everything." The room went completely silent. Lily stared at David with her mouth slightly open, while Rosa felt like the air had been sucked out of her lungs. "But that's not all," David continued. "Jennifer, would you explain the scholarship component?" The lawyer smiled and opened one of her folders. "Mr. David Chen, yes, that's his full name, Lily. He shares a surname with your art teacher, though they're not related. Wants to establish an art scholarship in your name, the Lily Rodriguez Young Artist Medical Support Scholarship. It would provide financial assistance to young artists facing serious medical challenges, helping them continue their artistic pursuits during treatment." Robert Kim, the accountant, added, "The scholarship would be funded with $2 million initially, with the interest providing ongoing support for years to come." Rosa felt dizzy. She reached out and grabbed Lily's hand, needing something solid to hold on to. "There's more," David said gently. "I've also arranged for a showing of your work at the Riverside Gallery downtown. It's one of the most prestigious galleries in the city. They've agreed to display 20 of your pieces, with all proceeds going to support other young artists facing medical challenges. Lily finally found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. I don't understand. Why would you do all this for us? You barely know me. David's eyes grew soft. Lily, on Friday when we talked about art, I saw something in you that reminded me of my sister at your age. Not just the illness, but the determination, the talent, and the way you're handling an impossible situation with such grace. My sister survived her cancer, but our family never fully recovered financially. My parents spent their retirement savings, their house was foreclosed on, and they struggled for years afterward. He paused, collecting his thoughts. I made a promise to myself back then that if I ever had the means, I would help other families avoid that same financial devastation. When I sold my company 2 weeks ago, I gained those means. Meeting you felt like the universe telling me it was time to keep that promise. Patricia Martinez opened her folder. If you agree to this, I can have your account with the hospital cleared by tomorrow morning. All current balances paid in full, and we'll establish a fund to cover all future treatment costs. Rosa started to cry. Not sad tears, but overwhelming tears of relief and disbelief. I don't know what to say. This is too much. We can't possibly accept this. Mom, Lily said softly, squeezing her mother's hand. Maybe we can, David smiled. The only condition I have is that someday, when you're healthy and successful as an artist, you help another young person facing similar challenges. Not necessarily financially, though if you can, that would be wonderful. But in whatever way you're able. Art therapy for kids in hospitals, teaching classes for young patients, anything that uses your talents to help others. Lily nodded, tears streaming down her face. I promise. I absolutely promise. Jennifer Walsh slid the documents across the table. These papers establish the medical expense fund and the scholarship. If you're comfortable proceeding, we just need your signatures on a few places. As Rosa and Lily signed the papers, David watched with satisfaction. This was exactly what he had hoped to do with his newfound wealth. Not just help one family, but create lasting change that would help many families over time. There's one more thing, David said as they finished with the paperwork. The gallery showing is scheduled for next month. The local news stations are already interested in covering the story. Are you comfortable with that level of publicity? Lily looked at her mother, who nodded. If it helps other kids like me, then yes. As they prepared to leave the conference room, David handed Lily a business card. This has my personal number on it. If you need anything at all during your treatment, anything, you call me. And I meant what I said about the commission piece. I'd still love to have you create something for my new office. Walking out of the hospital that afternoon, Rosa and Lily felt like they were floating. The crushing weight of financial worry that had been pressing down on them for months was suddenly gone, replaced by hope and gratitude they could barely comprehend. Mia, Rosa said as they got to their car, I think our lives just changed forever. Lily nodded, looking back at the hospital where she would continue her treatment, but now without the fear of bankrupting her family. Mom, I can't wait to start helping other kids the way David helped us. The news spread faster than anyone expected. By Tuesday morning, less than 24 hours after the meeting in the hospital conference room, local news outlets had picked up the story. By Wednesday, it had gone national. The headline on most websites read something like, Tech. Millionaire pays cancer teen's medical bills after buying her artwork. Lily woke up Wednesday morning to find her phone buzzing with dozens of missed calls and text messages. News producers wanted interviews, newspapers wanted quotes, and people from across the country were trying to reach her with their own stories of medical hardship. Rosa felt overwhelmed by the sudden attention. Maybe we should have thought this through more carefully, she said, scrolling through the endless stream of notifications on Lily's phone. But David had anticipated this reaction. When he called that morning, his first words were, Don't worry about the media circus. I have people who can help manage this if you want. Within hours, David's public relations team had set up a system for handling media requests. They scheduled 3 television interviews for Lily over the next week, all with reputable news programs that promised to focus on the positive aspects of the story, rather than sensationalizing her illness. The first interview was with Channel 7's morning show. Lily was nervous, but the host, Maria Santos, was gentle and asked thoughtful questions about Lily's art and her experience with treatment. When Maria asked about David's generosity, Lily's response surprised everyone, including herself. "What Mr. Chen did for my family is incredible, and I'll be grateful forever," Lily said, looking directly into the camera. "But the most important part isn't just that he helped us. It's that he showed me how one person can make a real difference. Now I want to spend my life doing the same thing for other people." The interview clip went viral within hours. People shared it on social media with comments like, "This girl gets it, and this is what hope looks like." The Riverside Gallery called David that afternoon to report that they had received over 200 inquiries about purchasing Lily's artwork, even though the official showing wasn't scheduled for another 3 weeks. But the most meaningful responses came from other families facing similar struggles. A mother from Ohio wrote a letter explaining how her 10-year-old son with brain cancer had been inspired by Lily's story to start drawing again during his treatment. A father from Texas sent photos of his teenage daughter's pottery, asking if there might be similar opportunities for young artists in his area. David realized they had started something bigger than he had originally planned. He called another meeting, this time including Lily and Rosa in the planning process. "I think we need to expand this program," David said, sitting in his downtown office with Lily, Rosa, and his team of advisors. "The response has been incredible. People want to help. And there are clearly many more young artists out there who could benefit from this kind of support." Jennifer Walsh had already been researching the legal framework for a larger charitable foundation. "We could establish a national nonprofit organization specifically focused on supporting young artists facing medical challenges." The initial funding from David could support dozens of kids like Lily. Over the next month, as Lily continued her treatment and regained strength, the Young Artists Medical Support Foundation took shape. David hired staff, established partnerships with children's hospitals across the country, and created an application process for families to request assistance. The gallery showing exceeded everyone's expectations. On opening night, over 300 people crowded into the Riverside Gallery. Lily's 20 paintings were displayed beautifully, with small placards explaining the story behind each piece. By the end of the evening, 18 of the 20 pieces had sold, raising over $12,000 for the new foundation. More importantly, the event had attracted the attention of other wealthy donors. A real estate developer who attended the gallery opening wrote a check for $50,000 on the spot. A local business owner pledged to donate a percentage of her company's profits to the foundation each year. Lily's health continued to improve throughout the winter. Her blood counts were responding well to treatment, and Dr. Thompson was optimistic about her long-term prognosis. But perhaps more importantly, Lily had found a new sense of purpose that went beyond her own recovery. She started visiting other young patients at the hospital, bringing art supplies and offering to paint with them during their treatment sessions. The hospital staff noticed that Lily had a special gift for connecting with scared kids, helping them find a creative outlet during their most difficult days. "You know what's amazing?" Dr. Thompson told Rosa during one of Lily's checkup appointments. "Lily's recovery is going better than I expected, and I think having this mission, this sense of purpose beyond her own treatment, is actually helping her heal faster." By spring, the foundation had helped 37 young artists across 12 states. Some received direct financial assistance for medical bills. Others got art supplies and scholarships, and a few had their work displayed in local galleries to raise money for their treatment. One of the most touching success stories came from Atlanta, where a 15-year-old boy named Miguel had been creating incredible sculptures during his treatment for bone cancer. The foundation not only helped pay for his medical expenses, but also arranged for his sculptures to be displayed at the Atlanta Museum of Art. The exposure led to a full scholarship to art school, something Miguel's family never could have imagined possible. Lily kept a scrapbook of all the young artists the foundation had helped. Each page contained photos of their artwork, updates on their treatment progress, and letters they had written thanking the foundation for its support. On difficult days when her own treatment was particularly hard, Lily would flip through the scrapbook and remember why all of this mattered. The 1-year anniversary of Lily's diagnosis arrived in October. To mark the milestone, David organized a special event at the Children's Hospital where Lily received her treatment. Young artists from across the region who had been helped by the foundation came to display their work and share their stories. The hospital's main lobby was transformed into a gallery space, filled with paintings, sculptures, photographs, and other artwork created by kids and teenagers facing serious medical challenges. Each piece was accompanied by a small biography of the artist and an update on their health journey. Lily stood in the center of the temporary gallery, surrounded by the work of dozens of young people she had helped inspire and support. Her own health was doing well. She was in remission and her hair was starting to grow back, though she still had months of maintenance treatment ahead of her. "Look what you started," Rosa said, joining her daughter in the middle of the gallery. All these kids creating beautiful things even while they're fighting for their lives. David approached them, carrying a wrapped package. "Lily, I have something for you. It's from all the families you've helped this year." Inside the package was a hand-bound book titled "Thank You, Lily." Each page contained artwork, photos, or letters from young artists and their families expressing gratitude for the foundation's support. Some pages showed kids painting in hospital rooms. Others displayed finished artwork, and several contained photos of young artists at their own gallery showings or scholarship award ceremonies. The final page of the book contained a letter signed by all 37 families the foundation had helped. "Dear Lily, you showed us that even in our darkest moments we can create something beautiful. You proved that young people can change the world, even while fighting battles that seem impossible to win. Because of your courage and David's generosity, our children don't have to choose between their health and their dreams. They can fight their illness and pursue their art. Thank you for showing us that hope and creativity can exist alongside fear and uncertainty. Thank you for turning your own struggle into a gift for so many others." As Lily read the letter aloud to the gathered crowd, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Parents of sick children, hospital staff, donors to the foundation, and local community members all stood together, united by the power of art to heal and inspire. That evening, as the event was winding down, David pulled Lily aside for a private conversation. "I want you to know that meeting you changed my life just as much as it changed yours," he said. "I had all this money and no clear purpose for it. You gave me the chance to do something meaningful." Lily smiled, looking around at the gallery space that would soon return to being a hospital lobby. "Mr. Chen, I think we're just getting started. There are so many more kids out there who need help, so many more artists who need to know that their dreams don't have to die because they got sick." David nodded. "Then let's keep going. As long as there are young artists facing medical challenges, this foundation will be here to help them." 2 years later, the Young Artists Medical Support Foundation had helped over 200 young people across the country. Lily, now officially in remission and starting her senior year of high school, served on the foundation's board of directors. She still painted every day, but now her artwork carried an additional layer of meaning. Each piece was created by someone who understood that art isn't just about making beautiful things, but about transforming pain into purpose and helping others find hope in their darkest moments. The girl who had started by selling paintings on a hospital sidewalk had become the founder of a movement, proving that sometimes the most extraordinary changes in the world begin with the simplest acts of courage and creativity.